Fantasy football universe, welcome back again. I am SC Romero, the Devy Mastermind at the FFU at the PPR so on X with a very special episode of the Devy Game Day. I have two guests joining me today, and we're going to talk about the top 25 teams and their matchups and players to watch right after the intro. Fantasy football universe, how's it going? Again, SC Romero at the PPR so on X, the Devy Mastermind of the FFU. Joined today by two special guests. You already know the guy to my far right over there, my man Buckwild Sports Spencer, joining in again. How you doing, my man?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Here to talk some college football. So excited to have you on. And then new guest to the show, my man, host of JT. The Brew with JT Stew. Is that correct? There you go.
The Stew with JT Brew. Yep, the Stew with JT Brew.
There you go. Got the words confused. But JT, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Good to be back with you, SC.
We've taught Devy in the past. Last year we had our own Devy thing going on. So glad to have you back in to talk hockey. You know, I'm actually the league I talked to you about with the hockey. My man Spencer's actually the one that does the hockey league. So Spencer, nice. I get all my tips from JT here when it comes to the hockey stuff.
Yeah, for anybody that's a hockey fan, we Tuesday nights on the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel, we've got Around the Ice is my hockey show we do every Tuesday night. So if you're interested in that, hockey gambling, fantasy hockey, all that stuff, you can jump in and watch us on that.
There you go. Before we start, Spencer, I just want to say congrats, man. You know, I went below past the bar exam, man. So a very awesome accomplishment, brother. Congrats to you and just your career and your endeavors and your journey. I know you produce excellent content, but now you know you're actually going to be helping a lot of people in the courtroom and do some good things. So congrats with that, brother.
I appreciate it.
Way smarter man than me. There's no way I can pass the bar. I can guarantee you that.
I don't think I could either.
He told me he was waiting for. I was like, bro, you got this in the bag. You're good. But we are going to talk about the matchups. But you know, shout out my Ducks. You know, they came through and won last night. But a bigger matchup. I have my show with the O, so I'll talk about the Ducks there. But JT, you're a Syracuse fan, and they had a thriller last night against UNLV. Just talk to us about that game and what you love to see about Syracuse there.
Yeah, man, I knew that was going to be a good game. I had a good feeling about that game. Just for entertainment value, I was like, this is going to be a really good one. I was pumped to watch it last night. They started off, came out firing 14-0 lead. Then 21 unanswered in the second quarter from UNLV. The game was down to the wire. It looked like they were going to put it away. And Kyle McCord threw a tough pick at the end of the game. UNLV drove all the way down and scored. It looked like it was over. I tried to get in my plus 550 bet when they were down on the last drive, and it wouldn't let me get it in. I was pissed. But Syracuse was able to drive back down, tied up, and then they ended up winning it in OT as UNLV kicked the extra point or kicked the field goal to go up, and then Syracuse was able to score a touchdown on their first possession of OT and got the win. One of my buddies texted me this morning. I was like, you should have taken it. He took a UNLV, and I was like, you should have taken the points, man. I told you. And he's like, we talked about the over. I was like, yeah, we did talk about the over. Should have taken the over as that game went way, way over. But, man, so talking about Devy players and some guys, man, Kyle McCord, shunned by Ohio State, pushed off to the side. He is leading the nation in passing yards. He has been dynamic for Syracuse. After Ohio State was like, just don't lose us games, and they only lost one, and somehow they lose the national champion Michigan, and that was enough for them to push him out of town. He goes to Syracuse and is just lighting it up. Syracuse, completely different story. They are asking him, begging him to win games for them. He is throwing the ball all over the field. He is looking fantastic. And for everyone that had him in Devy and then said, oh, I blew it and dumped him or didn't take him, like, pull him back up. Like, if he's sitting out there, he's a guy you want to keep an eye on. I think he's making his way up the Devy QB rankings this offseason. He is looking really good for Syracuse. I'm not gonna lie, he's thrown a couple tough picks, so he hasn't been perfect. But the ball looks good, the arm strength looks good. He's been real dynamic on a very okay offense as far as the line is concerned. And then my other guy, well, we have 3 Devy, studs on this team. Rondé Gadsden, he's back, baby. After missing all year last year with the injury, dude, he looks bigger and better than ever. He had 2 monster games to start the year, 2 kind of very games, the last 2 games, and then he showed up again last night. Another monster performance. He kind of was that cheat code in CFF. He's listed as a tight end, but he kind of is like a big slot receiver. I don't think it matters in the NFL. Well, the way the NFL is working these days, I think he can be that tight end in the NFL that plays big slot. He looks really good. And then a guy, if he wasn't already on your radar, LaQuinn Allen, man, I was telling you before the show, he feels like a more powerful, bigger Antonio Gibson to me. He can play between the tackles. He's not going to get you 20, 25 carries a game, but you saw it last night. The game to win the game, he runs through a linebacker, literally keeps his legs churning after he gets hit on the 4-yard line and just keeps running, and then outstretched and scores the touchdown. 3 TDs for him last night. Here's where I think he's more like Antonio Gibson is the receiving game. The guy can catch out of the backfield, man. He is perfect for this NFL. He you want a guy that can catch out of the backfield. You want a guy that can do a little bit of everything. This is your guy, man. LaQuinn Allen, I'm going to run down the stats for everybody who didn't watch last night. 19 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a great yards per carry average, but UNLV's been great against the run. But this is where I think he sells you on the NFL. They motion him out. They throw to him intentionally. He's not just a drop-off guy. There's so many plays where they set up for him intentionally. 9 catches, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns receiving. He's that guy that's going to get you 50, 60 rushing yards in the NFL, but another 56 in receiving yards, and he's going to get you 5, 6 catches a game with a chance to score. 9 catches last night, 2 of them for TDs, 3 total TDs. If Syracuse, who's not been good the last couple of years, I'm not going to lie to people, they've not been good. I think they're turning around and we're back. I think hopefully we're back to Syracuse being a place where you want to look for Devy players going forward. Kyle McCord, Rondé Gadsden, and LaQuinn Allen, all 3 of those guys need to be on your radar.
Beautiful. Spencer, did you happen to catch the game last night or see any part of it?
Caught a little bit of it amidst my celebration, and a guy who I think Undertaker meme insert here, Ricky White.
There you go. Yes,
on the other side of the ball there. He looked like a huge season last year, over 100 catches, over 1,400 yards. Kind of came out, and you're like, all right, this guy, maybe there's a little something here. UNLV, tough to tell. Started this year real slow. That offense was struggling. Sure. Obviously, we have the drama. But Ricky White last night, it's since the drama has ceased, he's been popping back off. I think he's a guy you need to have on your radar for day 2. He's looking real good. Day 3 with his size, maybe more likely, but I think there's a real chance day 2 pick right there, Ricky White.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up as well. I mean, I just think he's a nice field stretcher, has some good hands, especially with the quarterback controversy going on there. He's someone that, people definitely need to watch out for. L. Smith, welcome in, bro. Thank you for joining.
He feels like he could be like a really, really nice pick in like the 3rd round. And if he goes in the 4th, I feel like he would be a steal in the 4th. I really like Ricky White. Yeah, like you said, as soon as Sluka went out and they've made the QB change, it's like unleashed him. He has looked phenomenal the last 2 weeks.
They didn't miss a beat.
It's like, man, it's like, oh, that's the Ricky White we knew. I mean, 2 catches, 5, and then 3 the first 3 weeks. Then back-to-back 10 catch games for over 100 yards with 3 tutties. I mean, dude, Ricky White's back. if you got him in CFF, you're pumped. I
For
wish
sure.
I had him in more spots, but to me, he's a guy. If one of my teams took him in the 3rd round next year, I'd be like, there we go. Like I would love to see Ricky White on one of my teams.
For sure. For sure. I think some great Devy assets in that OT thriller. Love to see it. Syracuse rolling. UNLV, even in the loss, still look pretty good in some plays. But let's get into, today's game day matchups. The first one being UCLA at Penn State, number 7. Penn State favored minus 28.5 here. UCLA has just been atrocious this year. Ethan Garbers is not the guy for them. I mean, they're waiting for Lavia to come in there. TJ Harden has not been, working it up. Their defense, you could tell they're missing Latu there. Penn State, the running backs are rolling, right? Katron's had his good looking games. Nick Singleton is clearly the one there this year. It's been a back and forth since they've been in there, for Penn State. Katron's the one, Nick Singleton's the one, but right now it's Singleton. He is a little banged up. I know he has like a questionable tag on him right now. So that'll be interesting to see. If not, we know Katron will go there, and then maybe Quinton Martin, their freshman, may get some looks here today. But what are y'all thoughts on this game? Penn State should cover, right?
Oh yeah, Penn State should cover pretty easily. These big lines, it's always a risk. If they get up big and it kind of slows down a little bit, but I think Penn State wants to make a statement. Drew Allard needs to make a statement more than anything. He's looked kind of like a game manager again, a little bit more this year than we saw last year. Obviously, he's expanding a little bit, but he hasn't popped like we want. Guy we mentioned earlier, Kyle McCord. That's what we're hoping that Drew Allard was going to put up,
Right.
and he just hasn't quite done that. But as you said, Singleton, Katron looks great. I'm looking Tyler Warren. I'm calling it Tyler Warren touchdown today. He's gonna have a game.
Oh, there you go. JT, what about your thoughts?
I love it. This is one of those situations where usually don't like to take the big spreads, but man, if Penn State does anything, it's cover the big spreads a lot of the time. It's like they know what the spread is, and they always end up keep piling it on. I think they cover this 28. I said earlier in the year, I think UCLA is garbage. Like you said, they're terrible. I put big money on UCLA under 4.5 wins this year. They are not good. They've absolutely murdered me covering the last 2 weeks when they had no business covering. They were that cover against UCLA on that pick 6 was just brutal last week, and then they covered against LSU earlier in the year, which was I had the house on that game. There was no reason they should have covered that game either. This UCLA team is bad. You're playing an early game on the East Coast. This has absolute blowout written all over it. I think Alar has a big game. I like Singleton. If you're going to put it, you're looking like, how can I put a same game parlay together? Take Alar over yards. Look for Alar touchdown. Took Singleton over yards, but Singleton anytime touchdown. And I like what Spencer said. Throw Warren in there with an anytime touchdown. Man, you could get some monster odds. You throw those together, this team's going to score a lot of points. You throw that all together, I bet you can get probably plus 25, somewhere between depending on how many legs you put in, plus 2,500 to plus 4,000. I'm all over that on a same game parlay. Throw a couple dollars on it. I think they roll the day. And, for all the talk about how they can't get any talent on offense outside the running backs, dude, Tyler Warren's looking good this year, man. 20 catches, leads the team, 20 catches, 260 yards, 2 TDs. I like it. And Alar's getting there. He's still not where we want him to be for Devy purposes, but he's getting there. He's getting there. He's going to do it, man. I still think he's going to have to come back and maybe go out next year. But he's at 70% completion. He's got 8 TDs and 1 pick. It hasn't been totally beautiful. A lot of 200-yard games. He's got 1 300-yard game, but it's like I think it's coming. It's just he's still working his way there.
Yeah. Aller, I think it's just one of those situations where we had high expectations for him, and when I say high expectations, I say, bro, we want you to air it out. But when you're in an offense like Penn State, where you have 2 solid running backs that are like pure runners, not necessarily just the pass catchers, but like pure runners that can just run down your throat, right? You don't necessarily need that, right? So it's more so watch the games. He does look a little bit more confident as he, unlike last year where he was like, man, you look like you're not letting the pressure go with you, right? So those are some big issues for him. He has to stay another year. I don't see him coming out. I think he has to stay another year and then continue to develop his skills. And unfortunately, we saw him, kind of come up a little bit last year, but then he just hasn't had the receivers really there for him. Not Nesbitt, excuse me. Like you mentioned, Warren's a great guy there for him. So this should be a wake up game. He could air it out because again, UCLA just looks atrocious on both sides of the ball. They're not necessarily doing anything great that satisfies me. TJ Harden maybe had a good game this season, but that's about it. But yeah, they just look bad, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing UCLA next year because when Madam Alavia, Nico's little brother, comes in, that's gonna be a big thing. I mean, he decided to stay close to home and stay, on the West Coast instead of going to the East. So that's gonna be very nice to see there as well.
I was gonna say, I think the big thing for Alar, if JJ McCarthy wouldn't have got hurt and was doing what Sam Darnold's doing for the Vikings right now, I think you would see that help Alar a lot. Because you see a guy who was at a Big Ten school playing a pro style offense where they were relying on the run, they weren't throwing the ball a ton, and he goes high and goes into the NFL and is successful. I think you're going to see people that be like, oh yeah, Drew Alar, he's the same guy. He's got the skills. Right. He's got the size. He played in the same type of offense. He's not going to be a world beater in college. He's not going to give you the 300-yard passing games with 3 TDs, but he can be a good NFL QB. Mm-hmm. Even just a little bit of what we saw out of J.J. McCarthy last year, I think if Alar comes back and J.J. McCarthy comes back and has a good year, I think it's going to help him. I really do. I just think we're never going to get those monster games out of him on a regular basis in college because of the team he plays for. But I think he's got all the skill set. He's got the size. I still think he's going to be a good Devy asset. I really, really do.
Yeah. He has a lot, going from what a day, possible first round pick and what was predicted to now. I mean, maybe one of your late day threes, to happen there. But, you never know. Those guys can do it. And year over year, we're seeing more and more of these day 3 kind of picks become something in the NFL. So good stats if you're deep. I don't know if I'd roster him in 5 Devy leagues, but if you're 7, 8, I'm not mad about necessarily rostering Alar there because I think the potential is there. We just need to see it. So it's definitely a stash. And then, he might be that sell high when that time comes when he does succeed there. Let's get into our next game here. This is a good one. This one's going to be a slobber knocker in my senses. Missouri number 9 at Texas A&M number 25. A&M favorite -2.5. JT, I'm going to let you get on Missouri here in a sec. But Missouri, man, Luther Burden, I think, needs to come out, step up. A lot of people had him as the wide receiver 1. Hasn't been the year he wanted, right, so far. Brady Cook needs to find him a lot more. But Nate Noel, has looked very well for them in the running game there. And then on the flip side, Texas A&M, I know the hype was on Connor Wyman, but is Marcel Reed the better quarterback there? I think he might be. The offense just looks a little bit more fluid there for him. But JT, you're a Missouri fan, so go ahead and tell us about Missouri there.
A huge one today. I've been pumped about this one. The smack talk has been all over the interwebs between Missouri fans and Texas A&M fans this week. It's been a big one. This is a huge game. I think Mizzou's been kind of holding back. They haven't had the tough schedule just yet. I think they break out today. I think you see Connor Cook break out. Or Brady Cook, excuse me. I think Brady Cook has a big game. And Luther Burden, I don't necessarily put it on Luther. It's not that he hasn't played that well. They just really haven't aired the ball out much. And he's got a couple touchdowns. He just hasn't had a million targets. The one game he was sick, Theo Weiss, he didn't play much because I guess he was under the weather. And Theo Weiss took over and had 15 targets for 10 plus catches, 100 plus yards. So I think we see Luther Burden. I still think Luther Burden is either the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. I think it's going to be depend on the team. Somebody's going to like Ted McMillan more because they want the bigger outside guy. But someone's going to want him. I think it's those 2 guys and Travis Hunter are the top 3 wideouts for me this year. I think Luther has a big day. I'm all over Missouri in this game. I know I'm a homer, but I think they go down to Texas A&M, and I think they win this game. I'm taking Missouri money line. If you're nervous, I'm taking them +2.5 or the +3 if you get it +3. But I'm on them on money line on this one. I think Missouri wins this game, and I have to say this. I've never been a big Connor Wegman guy. I just haven't been. Maybe if he's on another team, I'd like him more. I've not saw what everyone else has seen, and I've been out on him the whole time. I think this is a situation where he's got to get out of Texas A&M. He's got to transfer. He's got to go somewhere else if he's going to help his Devy stock at all. I don't like him there at all. But Nate Noel, if you were like me and everybody else was taking Marcus Carroll early in your C2C or CFF drafts and you took Nate Noel 10 rounds later, you're pumped right now. I took Nate Noel everywhere, and he is coming through. He looks really good right now. He's been very, very solid. So, Devy wise, I think Missouri's going to keep putting players out there like Noel. I think Burden. I know the stats haven't been there this year. I still think he's an absolute stud. Theo Weiss, he's got to keep performing. He's got himself maybe in that 4th, 5th round draft range right now. He's a guy that I think could make it in the NFL if he gets in the right spot. But he's got to keep performing. But Brady Cook, that's the key. Looked really good last year. He has been very average so far this year. I know Missouri fans are just riding his ass. So they want to see a big one out of him. He needs a big game. I think today is the breakout for Mizzou offense. I think they come to play.
For sure. And, Brady Cook, I don't feel we expected much out of him, right? I think last year we understood, Luther Burden was the guy making him look good. It's just unfortunately we haven't seen as much, but I think it's just been on the rise of Theo Weiss as well. He's looked better this year than he was. Nate Noel, I mean, when I saw he transferred from Appalachian State, I was like, yeah, this guy's it. Appalachian State produces some good running backs. So when he goes to SEC team, I'm like, Nate Noel's that kind of dog there. Spencer, what are your thoughts on this game? Is there anything surprisingly on like the A&M side that could help them pull this upset off?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you saw with Mizzou a few weeks ago against my guys BC is that a guy like Marcel Reed who runs a little bit, who's got those legs, can kind of push that defense to spread out a little bit. I look for Le'Veon Moss to have a good game. I think that's how A&M wins this game, is if Reed and Moss can run it out and spread that defense. I think they can run that clock and push it. It'll at least be close. A&M's a good team. I was also I want to talk about Wegman because I was a big Wegman guy. I was a big believer. I saw that like brief stretch, flash in the pan, big arm, obviously pure pocket, and I was like, man, this guy's got the tools.
Right.
Came in rated high because of that, but I don't think he's got. He reminds me a lot of DJU, where we saw big flashes, highly rated recruit, looked just really great for a big stretch of time, but injuries, loss of confidence. I think that he's going to need to work really hard to not fall into the DJU trap where he just sort of fades from existence. And, now he's hoping to work his way into the 7th round of the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. And with, I agree with you on the rushing upside with Marcel Reed there, and Davion Moss could get it too. But, points to the defensive side, we talk about Brady Cook. The pressure is going to come from A&M, right? Nick Gordon looking hot. He has 3 sacks on the season, transferred from Purdue. We knew this guy could set the blockers and get around off the edge as well. Plus, you have Samar Turner down there, and then you have Torian York, Scooby Williams. You have different guys on A&M. So the focus here, I think, for A&M is going to be to drive that pressure in, make Brady Cook uncomfortable, make him force passes that he's not looking to complete at that point in time, and make him throw quicker than what he wants. Don't give him time in the pocket. Don't let his wide receivers get open. And that'll be a big turnaround for them to get this upset going. A&M has looked rough. Now, they have looked rough this season, but they have started to get some stuff together as well. So there's a lot of high for them. I know they're 4-1, but this could be a big not wake up game. This a turnaround game to put them on the map, right? You beat a top 10 team. You are at A&M College Station. They do get rowdy. My cousins are probably there at this game. They're A&M alumni, but this is going to be a huge game for them, regardless. And even in the loss, these are the type of games where even in the loss, you had to show up. So if the spread is 2.5 though, and then you lose by 3. Hey, that's still a good game in my opinion. If you come out there and ball out and do good, you still go out there and make some big plays. I think it's gonna come down to the defense making a crucial stop, whether it be just them going, 4th and 1 or whatever it is. Defense for A&M will have to make a crucial stop to not let Missouri get the advantage and get the heads up there. So big games coming on. That's gonna be an exciting game to watch there.
SC, I got a same game parlay. You want me to give to the listeners for this game?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. If you go to FanDuel right now, they got a 50% boost on this Missouri Texas A&M game. So jump in there if you have it. If you got FanDuel where you live at, jump in there and throw that boost on. So right now I've got, and this is again total Missouri fandom. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm just telling you that right now. Just get it out there and being honest. I got Missouri money line. I got Brady Cook 200 plus passing yards. Theo Weiss 40 plus receiving yards. Luther Burden 70 plus receiving yards. Nate Noel 60 plus rushing yards. Luther Burden anytime touchdown, and Le'Veon Moss for A&M plus 50 rushing yards. That right now is plus 1429, and you can get the 50% boost to get up to 2144 plus 2,144. If you don't love those plays, jump in there and put something on. They got a 50% boost this morning on FanDuel, but that's my pick, plus 2144. Brady Cook 200 plus passing yards. Theo Weiss 40 plus receiving yards. Luther Burden 70 plus receiving yards. Nate Noel 60 plus rushing yards. Anytime TD for Luther Burden, and then Le'Veon Moss 50 plus rushing yards for Texas A&M with the Missouri money line.
There you go. I know, JT, you got your JT parlays of the day, so that's actually a pretty good one, especially with that boost there. Let's get into our next game here. That's SMU at Louisville, number 22. Louisville favorite by a touchdown here and that extra point, -7 here. This is going to be a good one. SMU 4-1. To be honest, Preston Stone was the guy, but Kevin Jennings is coming in here and looking pretty good for them as well. Showing some good rushing upside for them, getting the ball out quickly, hitting his receivers in stride. RJ Maryland, I've talked about him all season. RJ Maryland's a tight end to keep an eye on. Just the athleticism there. Probably a day 3 pick just on what he's been doing, but the athleticism there is for him. He needs to polish his route running. On the flip side, Louisville, man, they got some heavy hitters too there as well. They have someone on the edge there that can really, gain some pressure, in Austin Gillette as well on their defensive side. Spencer, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be probably right within that spread. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little closer. It comes down to the wire. As you said, RJ Maryland, that's absolutely a guy to watch. I think you're right on the money, day 3, maybe a UDFA, but I think he's playing his way into day 3.
Mhm.
That athletic profile is really interesting. Brashard Smith has been an absolute monster for them.
Mhm.
I don't think he's an NFL talent, but he's been playing like one.
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to kind of see. I think he could be a difference maker. But on the Louisville side, I know you talked. You don't love this guy, but Ja'Cory Brooks.
Mhm.
I feel completely remiss if I don't say. I think day 2. He's been playing insane. He's got. He just looks like a different player this year.
Yeah.
The routes are much crisper. The hands are much better. I mean, everything that you kind of looked at when he was over there, I think it was Bama, just wasn't gelling together. It's gelled.
Mhm.
So he's a guy, I want to dive a little bit deeper in the tape, but everything that I've seen so far, he's a fast riser for me in this upcoming draft cycle, and he's Louisville's identity on
Yeah.
offense besides those freshman running backs. So
Yeah.
I want to keep an eye on Ja'Cory Brooks, see if he balls out. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I think that spread is right on the money. I'd take the SMU side of that.
Yeah. JT, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with Spencer. I'm on SMU on this at the +7. I like it. Plus, I have to say I'm on Louisville under wins this year, 8.5. So an SMU win here would really push that would be really nice. So selfishly, I want SMU to win just to help me get that under for Louisville. I definitely like the points. I think you're right. I think it's a close game. So 7 to me is too many. I think this is a 3-point game. It feels like a 1-score game. And even if Louisville wins by a touchdown, I'd rather have SMU on the +7 side on that. Louisville's looked really good defensively. outside of Ja'Cory Brooks, which I think he has looked a lot better this year, they just don't have a whole lot of guys that you want to talk about on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. SMU, same thing. I agree with you guys. I think RJ Maryland's underrated in the way that the NFL is working with these tight ends. He kind of reminds me of an Isaiah Likely type. I think he's one of those guys. He could go late in the draft, but if he goes to the right team that knows how to use him in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be a very usable / fantasy asset. I think he has a way to be 6'4", 237. Again, undersized typically, but a dude from South Lake, Texas. We know they produce studs. They have over and over the years. Have put out a ton of high school studs. I think he's the type of guy that you want to keep an eye on. Again, he's probably a late draft pick or a UDFA, but I see him. If he goes to the right team, I think he's going to be sneaky good. He's one of those guys I love to take in like the 5th round of my rookie drafts and then stash him on my taxi for 2 years. If I'm in one of those leagues that let you hold guys for 2 years, I want to take those late tight ends, put them on my taxi, let them sit there, let them marinate. And when they're ready to bust out year 3, that's when I want to pull those guys off. So I'm in on that.
Right. He's a raw talent. He has some polishing around the edges that needs to happen, but like blocking, like I don't think he's the best blocker, but the athleticism is there, man. You just put him on a stretch route, just have him go straight up a stream route there and make him make the play. He catches the ball, he can make the play and make some big ones. And then we talk about Rashad Smith. I think that's gonna be an X factor with them. They came out and they put up points against TCU and FSU. Not necessarily those are the best teams. I know they're not ranked, but still, when you go out there and do what you did against them, I mean, that's something to put them on notice. So I think with Louisville being ranked, this is a good opportunity for SMU to potentially jump into the top 25 with a victory. But, it's going to come down to Kevin James, Rashad Smith, RJ Maryland continuing to lead that charge there. And then their defensive guys coming in big. I know SMU has a solid defender in Isaiah Wokobia, who will be charged in making sure Rashad doesn't get any, big plays like you mentioned there, Spencer, for him. So that's going to be huge for them as well. I mean, Brooks, excuse me, to be covering him and making sure he's not, getting down the field or being the secondary as well. So this will be interesting. I'm going to take SMU here just because I think they can definitely cover this if they lose, but I think they're going to possibly pull out this upset. SMU is on fire right now, and I think they have a statement to prove, and this will be the game here. Next one here, we're going to talk about Iowa at Ohio State, number 3. Ohio State favorite -18. The undefeated teams are, I know people are high on Milroe. Oregon's looking nice. I know Texas is on a bye week. Is Ohio State the best team in the nation, though? What do you think here, JT?
I really like Ohio State. Like I said, and I just keep beating the drum. But if Kyle McCord was there, I think Kyle McCord would technically, if he was playing the way he's playing right now for Syracuse at Ohio State, he would be the leader for the Heisman right now. He really would be. I like Ohio State, man. This defense is tough. They haven't had to really break it out on offense yet. I mean, I think the scary thing is they're so good that like they've kind of been half-assing a lot of these games. Like they're not like putting it to like put 2 teams. Like you're seeing like the wideouts like, oh, you get a couple good plays, but they're like, we don't need to like keep feeding them, even though they're looking great. This team is tough, man. They're my team to beat in the Big Ten. I really think I hate to say it, but I think Will Howard is the weak link on this team at QB. I know he's been solid, so I hate to just rip on him. He's been okay, but I think if they go down, he's going to be the reason because the running game's great. Judkins, Travion Henderson, 2 Devy studs. Which guy do you like better at this point is the question. I think they're both studs. I mean, obviously, if you got Jeremiah Smith in your Devy draft, you're elated. He's everything you thought he was going to be and more. He looks phenomenal. You're gonna have to wait on him a couple years. That's the only problem. But you're super bummed you got him. And being a Steelers guy, I saw a mock the other day that had Steelers taking Emeka Egbuka late in the first round. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's kind of nice. I was like, that would be a great landing spot for him. He would be a perfect complement to Pickens. I love that. I think Ibuka is still a first-round talent. I know the hype's worn off, and I know he's not an early declare, which everybody loves, but I still think he's a stud. I love him. I think a late first-rounder would be magical. And here's the thing is, like, we've got a little taste of Carnell Tate, barely any Brandon Ennis. I mean, this team – it's just loaded. They're just loaded. It's wild.
Haven't seen Millen Graham yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're the amount of just absolute studs on this team just sitting.
Sure.
And I tell you what, man, I'm super stoked for when Julian Sayin wins this job eventually. I think you're going to have him early. If he did not go in your league in a Devy this year or a C2C, which I'm pretty sure he probably should have. And if he didn't, though, if you're in a shorter league, he's going to go early next year. Yeah, you better have him on your radar, be ready to go.
I think Aaron Nolan's there too, right? So that'll be an interesting QB battle.
It's like, I think both those guys are studs. So I love Zan, but like Nolan can win that job.
Who was their recruit coming in
next year
too? Yeah,
right receiver. Yeah, he's just rumor just came out that he's out for the season. I do believe he got hurt, so hopefully a good recovery for him. But I mean, that's another guy, Chris Henry Jr., that they're just racking up, guys for them in Ohio State. And you think about what they're gonna do with Jeremiah Smith, and then like you mentioned, Carnell Tate. I mean, studs. Quinson and Travion. When I had Tom Harvey on this, the Devy Game Day the other week, he was talking about, Quinson transferred to not carry the workload, but still be efficient. That's what he's doing there as well. So, I mean, Ohio State has the firepower up and down the offensive side. Their defense looks great. One of the best secondaries in the league, with Denzel Burke there at the back as well. So they definitely have some guys there for them. But Iowa, man, I mean, the tail of the tape could be between the linebackers and the running backs of Ohio State, right? They have some linebackers that are dogs that go out there and aren't afraid to get physical. They close the gaps pretty quick. So, and these guys don't necessarily miss here. There's some guys that can get in there and make the tackles efficiently. So that'll be really good to see. Spencer, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, everything everybody said about Ohio State holds true. I want to shout out James Peoples too, because he's come out, true freshman, and balled out. Next year, it's hard to see. This is his backfield. So if people are sort of sleeping on him, especially in your C2C leagues where you're going to get that college production, he's got two monsters in front of him, and he's still showing out. But I actually think Iowa might cover this spread just because of how they play. Yeah. As you said, they have monsters on defense. They always do. They run a slow game, and it won't even be because Ohio State is struggling to move the ball. I could just see their time of possession being like a 1-3 ratio there for them. And honestly, what Iowa does great, and this is their X factor, a guy that I love, Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson is the running back for Iowa is legit, and I think this is a great game for him to show that he is legit. I think he's already into double-digit touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he's right on the precipice.
On the press.
He's close to leading the college football in broken tackles. He just is a beast. The passing offense is obviously garbage. McNamara looks terrible, which, who could have seen coming? Oh, no. Luke Lachey, the tight end for Iowa, big hype. Probably he's the only real pass catcher I think that's worth watching, but I should say trying to watch. As you said, I think Ohio State probably shuts down anything that they try to do in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Johnson gets 35 attempts this game, has like 150 to 200 yards and a touchdown, just because that's all they can do, and they're going to need to do it. So I think Caleb Johnson has worked his way into a day 2 pick, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about how deep this running back class is, right? Caleb Johnson's another guy that just adds to that, and hasn't had a game less than 115 yards this season, hasn't had a game less than 6.5 yards per carry this season. Just phenomenal guy. Opposite side, that's gonna be the answer for them, right? Is control the tempo of the game, and as you mentioned, the time of possession. So if they can just pound the rock with Caleb and just get inch after inch after inch, and then get the first rounds, of course, and keep the time on their sides, that could be the win, because you know Ohio State can score at any given time, right? So
Right.
you have to minimize those opportunities for them and make sure you're not allowing that to happen. And when you are, a key to Ohio State too is make them one-dimensional, right? If they have to be forced to pass, let them do that, but don't let the running backs, gain some momentum. And again, keep that tempo where they wanted to, beat the clock down a little bit, and then go for a play action and then throw the Jeremiah Smith down the field, because Smith can make those big plays. And you talk about Ibuka, you talk about Tate, they can make those happen all across the board. Doesn't matter who's on the field, and those are just their three guys that we see start the most. But then, as we mentioned, they still have Brandon Ennis, they still have Millen Graham, they still have a plethora of wide receivers. Hartline has a funnel of them, and he's just ready to unleash them. So that's going to be huge for them. Minus 18, I think this is closer. I don't see Ohio State necessarily putting up massive numbers here, but I think that's just because Iowa, maybe has 14 points to Ohio State's 20 at the start, and it causes Ohio State to kind of play more conservative and not necessarily take that big play. Maybe they throw the interception or something out the gate on Iowa, and then Iowa counters, and then Ohio State's like, oh, we got dial back a little bit and play a little bit conservative here. So
Yeah,
that's
I was gonna say, if you're on Iowa, I hope you got on them early. This line is dropping. It was like 22 days ago. It's down on FanDuel down to 17.5. So obviously the money is starting to jump on Iowa. At 20, I absolutely did not like Ohio State. I was like, I think Iowa can keep this one semi close. As it's dropping, it's got me nervous, and it's almost a no play for me if it keeps going down. I did like Iowa at plus 20 big time. If it gets under 17, I'm going to be real nervous about Iowa, whether they can keep it close. But I agree with both of what you guys said. I tell you what, man, Caleb Johnson, there is going to be some absolute guys that I love that go in the 4th and 5th round next year at running back that I'm just going to be gobbling up in the late 2nd, early 3rd round of my rookie drafts, because I'm going to love the landing spot. Man, I tell you what, I'm an old running back myself. I hate to see how the running back spot has been diminished in the NFL, but it's not diminished in college, man. They love these guys. Man, what a group. I tell you what, I'm not. I can't even remember the last time I saw this many studs in college football at running back. So much talent this year. It's so fun to watch.
Oh yeah, nah. This is the class. I've said it. This running back class is going to feed families for years to come here. But let's talk about the next one. Auburn at Georgia, number 5. Georgia favorite minus 21.5. So a few weeks ago, on this, I was like, Georgia's about to blow this out the water. They struggled against Kentucky. They had a good game, but it was a struggle game against Alabama. Historically, this would be their bounce back game, right? Their redemption game. They're gonna go out here and dominate. I don't really know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if this is gonna be a blowout game. You want to expect it to be, but I don't know if Jordan it just seems like they're struggling right here, with what's going on. It looks like they have some issues going on with the running game. I know, like Nate Frazier, ETN hasn't necessarily looked the greatest in my opinion. Their passing game is good, but Carson Beck is, a field general. He's not someone that's necessarily got aired out to throw it all. Maybe that's the receivers he has there as well. Auburn on the other side, they have Cam Coleman, who's going to go out there and ball. They have some Jaquez Hunter, who's had his times as well. This is a very interesting match, and I really don't know if this is the game that Georgia necessarily, puts a statement, puts up 60. I think Georgia puts up like 30 or so, and they could still win, but I don't know if they're going to cover the spread. Spencer, what do you think?
Yeah, I got to agree. And I think it comes down to Carson Beck. The defense looks, just as good as ever. Maybe not quite as good as years past, but it's still elite. It's still, if not the best college defense in the league, it's top 5.
Sure.
And but I think Carson Beck is to blame. You have Bowers and McConkey go to the NFL. And not that they have a ton of pass catchers that are going to fill in, step up, but I mean, they went out, they got plenty of guys to help him out, and he just has looked bad. I mean, for a game manager, he's under 63% completion. He just, I don't know. I don't see it. I think day 2, NFL pick. I think the number 1 was overblown. And Auburn, as you said, like I think 30 is reasonable. That running game has been good. Auburn has the pieces to break a big play, to just randomly bust through. They have massive talent at wide receiver, even if it's unrefined, because I think 2 of their starters are true freshmen who are just pure athletes. So I could see them absolutely covering the spread. They just, kick a field goal, score a long touchdown, hold Georgia to 30 or a little bit under, and you got yourself covered right there.
100%. JT, what are your thoughts on here with the Auburn and Georgia?
This is a game that was 24. It's already down to 21 and a half. If you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, I'm hammering Georgia in this game. They're going to pummel Auburn. I don't feel that way anymore, man. Georgia has looked a little rough. Auburn's got a little more talent than I expected. They're kind of feisty. They killed me at home against Cal a couple weeks ago. I just can't believe they didn't win that game. So I'm a little tough on that one. But yeah, I tell you what, I liked Carson Beck. I was never he's the number 1 QB guy. That just wasn't my pick. He is not doing himself any favors this year, Devy wise. I mean, he looked like the guy before the year, I guess, and he is quickly dropping down draft boards. He just doesn't look like that guy that's gonna win you games,
Sure.
and that's, I think, this is the problem for him. Yeah, Georgia, again, another team with a crap load of talent, and it's just like it's not necessarily showing up every week. And there's no way I just like absolutely love. I thought Dominic Levet was going to be the year. I really did. Like he showed out early at Mizzou, made the transfer. Obviously, everybody at Mizzou was super pissed about him transferring because they thought him and Burden were going to be the team. And then he transfers to Georgia, had a ton of talent around him. So I'm like, hey, man, you can't break out. You got everybody there. I thought this would be the year he would be Beck's go-to, and he just is like just another guy right now. It's kind of been disappointing. So this is a game I want to say this is a bounce back for Georgia, and they put it to Auburn. If they are like the team we think they were at the beginning of the year, that's what would happen. But I'm not 100% sure I believe it. So it's tough for me. I keep looking at it, and I'm like, now it's down to 21. Should I take it at 21 or 20 and a half? I don't know, man. I feel like that should be what happens, but I could see Auburn covering and just ruining my whole day.
For sure. And, we talked Devy on this show, right? So Devy asked that I'm currently struggling, in Devy leagues and in C2C leagues, struggling to figure out if I want to keep them on my roster. It's tight end Oscar Delp. We as a prospect coming in, Oscar Delp was looking phenomenal. We saw what Brock Bowers did. I was excited, like, oh, he's gonna take over Brock Bowers' role. He's gonna be the guy. He's been a little bit banged up here and there. We know Yurcevich has been banged up. It was in line for Delp to go out there and get the targets and be what Brock Bowers was. The athleticism is there, the catch radius is there, the elusiveness, the playmaking ability, all that kind of stuff. He's not as great as a route runner as Bowers is. You don't necessarily you can plug him out wherever, but he's not going to be as fluid as what Bowers was. But he's still an aggressive tight end. That athleticism was there, and he just hasn't showed up. And I have him in a lot of leagues. And I'm really struggling, like, man, because with tight ends, it's hard, right? Because tight ends in college, they're not getting the production you want necessarily that you want them in fantasy football, and you're talking about your NFL side. There are some that do, don't get me wrong. You have your Colston Lovins, you have shout out Spencer, your Harold Fannons, right? You have those type of guys that put up those points, but at the same time, some of the guys that don't, they still get to NFL and do really well. So I'm struggling because I know the talent is there for Delp. I just don't know if it's just because he's been banged up, because if he has injuries lingering, or if it's just Georgia not finding ways to get him the ball. Maybe it's Beck just trying to get to his wide receivers. But even then, y'all talked about some wide receivers. I was high on Kobe Young. I thought Kobe Young was going to be a good transfer out to be a good, stretcher for them as well. Hasn't been that guy. He has had some red zone targets, which is good. But again, I think it seems again for some teams this year, it seems they're playing differently than what they were used to. Like we saw Georgia be an explosive team. Their running backs are good, but yet they're not unleashing them in the ways I want them to, right? So there's a lot of questions there on the offensive side. I love Nate Frazier. He's someone that's a stash right now as a freshman. If you had Trevor Etienne, I'm not mad about having him as well because I think he is a good running back. But the Georgia offense just even against teams that they are playing against, it's not as exciting as it once was to me, in my opinion. Their defense is what's going to hold them up, but we saw last week against Alabama that they can get slapped in the face, and I don't even know if they're necessarily a favorite. They probably still are, but like in the playoff prediction, 12-team playoff, I don't know if that's the team to be looking at that point too. But this is going to be interesting. I don't know if this is a good spread for them. I just they should this should be the wake up call for them to go out there and dominate, but time will tell with that happening. Next one here though, Ole Miss number 12 at South Carolina. Ole Miss favorite -8.5. This is an exciting game because they have some talent all around as well. Ole Miss they did have a loss last week, so that kind of dropped them down there. They have Jackson Dart, who's my QB2 right now behind Ewers. I think even losing to an SEC team, I'm not necessarily gonna knock that. This is a game they had to come in there and win. Lenora Sellers should be back though, so this should be very exciting for him as well because we know he's a playmaker in the backfield for South Carolina as well. I do believe Raheem Sanders is banged up, but I think he's expected to play. And then we talk about Ole Miss's wide receiver Trey Harris, who's I'm rising the boards. He's my wide receiver 3 right now. He just looks phenomenal. He's fast. He's cutting his routes really good here. But what are your thoughts here, Spencer, on the game?
Yeah, and again, as you said, Jackson Dart has looked great, steady Eddie. Ole Miss, I think they cover the spread, win by at least a couple touchdowns. If not just 2 scores. USC, Norris coming back is huge, but he's been very up and down to start as well. As a passer, he still looks pretty raw. He doesn't have a ton of weapons down there in South Carolina. Obviously we haven't seen, the breakout of some of those, big weapons. Gosh, what's his name? Why can't I? Now that I've dropped him, I can't remember. Hakeem Williams? No.
Bennett Brown, Lavardian, Nick Harbor.
Yeah, Nick Harbor. There we go. That was got mixed up in my head. We haven't seen Nick Harbor really at all, and I would love to see them try to just use him. But Ole Miss looks great. Trey Harris, as you said, big riser, absolute monster. I think Henry Parrish is not going to play today. He was banged up coming in. The reports didn't look good last I checked, but I was offline most of yesterday, so with the bar exam stuff. So
sure.
I wasn't as tuned in, but I'd keep an eye on him. But the biggest wild card is I'm calling him Juice / Crystal Light Wells because sometimes there's just no juice. It's where does he go? I mean, he was blanked last week. He's being outproduced by Caden Lee, who I think Caden Lee's an underrated Devy asset. Just a watch list guy right now, especially, even in those steeper 7 roster leagues for Devy. But C2C, you should have him. But Juice Wells shouldn't be outproduced by him. Juice Wells, I kind of had him as a day 2 guy coming into the year. I'm worried. I want to know where you guys are at on Juice.
Well, this could be the breakout game we're wanting because this is his former team, right? And it's back out South Carolina, so he knows, what the atmosphere is like, and they may just try to feed him there. And Dart's someone that can, he can hyper target anyone at that time. But I think it's more just what he's done is allowed Trey Harris to get open more because people had to watch out for him and his athleticism and his big body as well. So it's allowed Trey Harris to find different things. I mean, Trey Harris is leading the team with 49 receptions. Second on the team is 16 and Caden Lee. So we know Trey Harris is the guy, but as much as he's doing great things, I think that comes in with Juice Wells being someone that can take eyes off of Harris and someone that if he's not, you can pass to him as well. But Harris is just being all over the field there. JT, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Ole Miss until last week, I have to be honest, they murdered me. I had so many parlays with Ole Miss in against Kentucky. That game just crushed me. They've been my play every week. Like, cover the spread. If you like player props, I've been Jackson Dart 300 plus passing yards, Jackson Dart 2+ passing touchdowns, Trey Harris over receiving yards every week. Like it's in money in the bank until last week. It's hit every week easy. I don't know what to think about South Carolina. UNLV, I thought LSU had them. I thought they were going to smoke them. That was a tough game. I'm probably jumping on Ole Miss again. I'm probably jumping on Dart, all these guys again. Trey Harris, man, I tell you what, I have to be honest. When he was at Louisiana Tech, I picked him up in a couple C2C leagues off the waivers, like early to mid part of the season. And I was like, man, this guy's really good. And then he transferred to Ole Miss, and I was like, can he do it there? I was like, I think he can. I think he's really a stud. Man, I'm loving to see that he's blown up this year. He looks freaking great, dude. He looks great. I'm super pumped. I mean, he has been an absolute beast. If you are a better, Lane Kiffin is your guy. He loves to run it up. I love Lane Kiffin. He loves just to keep. He wants Jackson Dart in this Heisman race. He wants him in this Heisman race. He's going to keep pounding him. If you're looking for a late Heisman bet, Jackson Dart, especially after last week because of the loss, his numbers have gone down.
Right.
If you want to jump on late, he's a guy I'm jumping on the Heisman race. I still think he's in the mix. Again, with the playoff, I think it's going to be totally different than it was in the past, where you lose that one game and you're kind of out of it. I just don't see that being the case this year. I'm jumping on Ole Miss. I'm moving the line. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna take it in a parlay, and I'm gonna move it down to 6.5. I think they get the 7. The 9.5 has me a little nervous. I think they win this game, but I'm going to get it down to 6.5, so the touchdown wins it for me. But no, I love Trey Harris, man. I just think he's moving up list. I'm really interested to see what the NFL is going to think about him, because he's a guy that seemingly has everything you want. 6'3", 210, is fast, is balling out.
Right.
Can he make his way into the first round? Is he a second round guy? What are they going to think about him? I'm interested to see on that, because I obviously, transferring, a little more of a late breakout because of that. But I like him a lot. Juice Wells is, what do you do? Like you guys said, he's a frustrating guy. We thought he would be the man moving over there on a high powered offense, and he's got a touchdown every week.
Yeah,
so that's
okay.
I mean, that's a nice anytime touchdown play. But 2 catches, 6 catches, 3. Yeah. That's not what you want to see, especially on an offense that's slinging the ball as much as they are. You'd figure he would have a lot more stats than that. So I think you're right. Maybe the revenge game factor against South Carolina today, but his Devy stock is dropping rapidly. He needs to step it up big time the rest of the year. I think you're in trouble.
And South Carolina has 2 good defensive backs, in Nick Eminwari and then Jalen Kilgore there as well. So, this could be a lockdown game where they're not able to get Harris as much as they want Orwell. So they may be forcing Dart, to make plays with his feet, which he can, and especially if you have someone like Henry Parrish out who's taking that up for him there as well. So this will be very interesting for them, and what they do. This is going to be South Carolina's defense needs to step up, right? Against a high-powered offense, you just need to slow them down. You can have them have a big play maybe, but you need to make sure Trey Harris isn't getting in the middle of the field or even just behind the secondary to have some sort of victory there. I like Ole Miss here. Ole Miss is still a favorite. I love Lenore Sellers. I think he's so good, but Robbie Ashford looked good as well. But Sellers, I think, is just he's polished, right? He's polishing up his edges, and he's getting better as the season goes. I feel like just understanding a little bit more what he can do with his talents as well. Heading into our next game here, though. Indiana 23 at Northwestern. Indiana favorite minus 13.5. You have Curtis Work there. You have Elijah Sherrod. Indiana is actually looking for their second 6-0 start since like 1967, I think. So this would be really interesting. But Northwestern is a team to just go in there and bully around. They come here and they play some physical ball as well. But I do think Indiana covers the spread. JT, what are your thoughts here?
As someone who lives in Big Ten country, shocker, Indiana, man, is like you just expect Indiana to be a guaranteed win every year when you see it on the schedule. They're going to be bad, classic basketball school. People don't realize like central Indiana to northern Indiana is actually like huge football country. It's just Indiana basketball has been so big for years. Everybody thinks that Indiana is a basketball state, but man, I think they covered. They have looked really good. Northwestern has not done a lot. I think it's Indiana's year, man. They've looked really good. I think they get it done in this one. A really good coaching job so far this year. I'm just shocked and amazed by how good Indiana's looked. Still hurting off of a loss by Missouri there a couple years ago. I still can't believe they lost that game. But I actually think I don't think they're a mirage. I think Indiana is actually legit kind of good. Like I really do think they're actually pretty decent.
Spencer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm as surprised as anybody also. You
Yeah.
know, looking at this game, I'm not sure there's a ton of Devy assets. As you said, Curtis Rourke, maybe a late day 3 pick. But you know, and Surratt. But you know, I like as far as a game, Indiana should cover. They're a surprising team. I get some better than their parts. But coming together, Northwestern, you know, really disappointing, I think. You know, not that there were high expectations, but you still hope that they'll be a little bit better than this. The defense is tough, though. They got some playmakers on that side.
For sure.
But you know, I still think they don't have any offensive firepower, and they don't really have an offensive identity, and that's gonna really hurt them in trying to play against a ranked team like Indiana, who actually has an offensive identity, actually has a good defense to match theirs. So.
100%. I think Surratt, you know, he's a possible late day 3. I think the combine's really gonna show a lot what NFL teams want to see from him. So he's someone just to keep an eye on because he is a nice receiver, but you know, at that next level, I think if he goes out there and balls out the combine, we'll see him rise. But right now, I think you're looking at him at a later day 3. This next game though, Alabama #1 at Vanderbilt. I have 2 questions for y'all, and I'll ask one to JT first. Is Jalen Milroe the top runner for the Heisman right now?
I think because of that game last week, he is. You know, that's really shot him up boards. I think he's the favorite right now if you look at most of the books. A lot of season left, though. A lot of season left. It's going to be interesting. I put out a tweet last week, and it's the hype's going to go down a little bit this week because they're on bye. But I think Travis Hunter should win the Heisman, man. I really do. I understand that the Heisman, as long with the NFL MVP, has become the best quarterback on the best team award, which drives me insane. I think it should be the best player. I think Travis Hunter is the best player in the country. If Colorado can get to the playoff, I think he wins it. If they can even get to like 8-4, 9-3, I think he wins it. Because I think they'll be good enough. We saw last year with Jane Daniels, you know, LSU 9-3, but he just had unreal stats. And we know a lot of the Heisman's hype. It's what guys see. You know, I used to be a Heisman voter. I know other people that were Heisman voters, and it was a lot of those guys didn't see a lot of games because they're covering college football every day, as a beat writer. So they didn't get to see a lot of games. It's the highlights, and Travis Hunter has the highlights to win it. So to me right now, he's the guy. I do think Milroe has a really good shot if he keeps going the way he's going with Alabama. Obviously, they're always going to be in the national spotlight, so I think he's in the mix. I think Milroe, we talked about all these quarterbacks really hurting themselves this year. Milroe's a guy that's helping himself. This offense, with him really opening it up with a new coaching staff, I think is good. And the fact that Penix went top 10, I think only helps him. You're like, oh, this guy's way more athletic. He's got a big arm. I just think it helps him. And coaches, I know people don't want to admit it, but coaches listen to other coaches. And when other guys that played well somewhere plays well in the NFL or goes high, it does get in the other coach's psyche. They're more willing to take a chance on a guy. I think Milroe is moving up big time in Devy circles. I'm not 100% sure where I've got him ranked right now. For me, he's moving up. He's probably number 5 for me right now, Devy wise, as far as QB. But he's moving up. If he keeps it going the rest of the year, I think he's going to keep moving up Devy boards for me. But I like him a lot. I hate to put money on the favorite, for the Heisman when he is the favorite, but he is
For
right
sure.
now. And I think he definitely has a good shot, though. I definitely think he's in the mix.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, second question here. We're gonna talk about 2 other possible Heisman candidates later on in the show here. But Spencer, for you, I know the hype's on Jeremiah Smith, and I know we talked about this kid last week. But then he had a phenomenal game-winning touchdown against Georgia. I mean, talk to us about the freshman Ryan Williams and what he is for a Devy asset and for Alabama.
Yeah, Ryan Williams. I know he's getting hyped, and I'm glad we talked about him before he absolutely exploded. I think he's challenging Jeremiah Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Williams, he's more of a fast, quick guy, whereas Jeremiah Smith's that like all around kind of well-rounded wide receiver who also has that. But Ryan Williams, I mean, you can't say enough. He's going to break records as a freshman. He's going to be like a tone setter. He just keeps working his way more and more into this offense. Now he's going to be playing every down for them. There's no way they can take him off the field. He's their leading receiver by like 300, 400 yards.
For sure.
He is, he's strong hands, again, really fast, really quick, knows how to run a route, and he can't even vote. I mean, he's not going to be voting in this upcoming election.
For sure.
And that's insane. I mean, we talk about guys getting drafted who can't drink. I mean, this guy's balling out at the number 1 school in the country, and he can't even vote.
Yeah.
Like that's who does that? It's sort of this thing. This 2027 class wide receivers is going to be a legendary class. I mean, we're talking like the Mike Evans, Odell class levels of legend. I mean, maybe even Julio and AJ Green. This is what these 2 guys are doing is insane. Anything, and again, as I said last week, and I think even more so this week, if you can move Jeremiah Smith for Ryan Williams plus anything, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I just am, because I think they're equal right now, and Ryan Williams keeps balling out like he is. Then he's gonna step up and he's gonna become the one of this class.
He's became the Romo Dunze for the DeBoer offense, right? He's just moving them around, making different plays for him, making sure he's getting the right looks for him as well. And that was really the question coming in, right? Could Kellen DeBoer do what he was doing at Washington, at Alabama, going to the SEC, coming from the Pac-12? Is like, all right, he's filling the Nick Saban. It's not going to happen. So far, I mean, he made me put my foot in my mouth, right? He told me, yo, go shut up, and I'm gonna go out there and do my thing with my guys, right? He's definitely doing it. I mean, that game against last week against Georgia, I mean, they were up, Georgia came back, so that was really tough, but then they still, battled through that adversity and still won. Again, big play from Ryan Williams and the athleticism, man. When he made that catch and when he saw the defenders coming in from the side and then he did a step back to go in and then, he was gone, so definitely love to see that. Honestly, I know you're talking about there right there, that, Jeremiah Smith might be slightly over. I think they're even. I think you have a 1A, 1B, and it's 1A, 1A, really. I think they're both 2 elite wide receivers, and you talk about that class of 2027. I mean, it's deep, and these are just the guys that we're seeing right now. We haven't seen Cam Colby. I mean, we have seen Cam Colby there, but, not as flashy as what they're doing here. Micah Hudson still someone that hasn't came on really. Mylan Graham we talked about, so there's definitely some guys there that can definitely, continue to rise. They're just buried on their depth chart a little bit. But this is gonna be good. I think Alabama covers this spread. Unfortunately, there's no one on Vanderbilt side I think is necessary on the Devy asset here. But Alabama at 1 is exciting to see, man, because I think they're doing some great things and they're being aggressive on defense as well. This is a defensive front that they didn't have in Washington with DeBoer, so he's excited to have this. So this is definitely a time where maybe he now gets to the championship and ends up winning, his championship like he couldn't do with Washington last year. Next one here, though, we're going to talk about Clemson at Florida State. Number 15, Clemson at Florida State. Clemson finished minus 15.5. Man, I think they can dominate this. Florida State has, we talked about UCLA looking atrocious. Florida State has looked atrocious. DJU, I'm sorry, bro. You're not the guy there. Clemson, Kate Klubnik has got his feet back under him. He's looking better. He's looking like he's the guy there. He wants it, So I really love it here. What are your thoughts on this game, Spencer?
Yeah, Clemson kind of came out, made a nice statement last week against Stanford. The Klubnik up and down game, but finished with a good line. Under 50% completion isn't what you want to see, but it was all bombs.
Right.
So he really showed out. They look like they got their mojo back, much to my chagrin, because I was hoping that the downfall would continue. Dabo Sweeney goes and gets cast into the sun. But I mean, talking to freshman wide receivers, how about Brian Wesco Jr.? He just comes in and he's balling. He's making huge plays. I thought he was going to be more of a short area kind of merchant, like quick twitch. But he's coming out and making absolutely massive explosive plays. And of course, Antonio Williams and Brendan Stool are adding a good element. Phil Maffa is just grinding yards out. So a lot of Devy assets here. As you said, FSU is gross. I mean, even Peyton, who, we were talking about maybe, number one pick in this draft, top 10. He hasn't been producing this year on that D line. No good things to say about FSU. Although, DJU revenge game, maybe, but I think he's hurt or sitting, or there was some talk of that earlier that, they're trying to peacefully bench him, I think. So, pretend, but
he was definitely where it was the system, right? I think Oregon State had a nice system where they had it, and that made him look better than what he was. I was saying that prior to, I don't know if he's gonna do this at Florida State. His wide receivers that came out, Kai Douglas leads it. Malik Benson's looked all right. Hakeem Williams, the ghost of Hakeem Williams, wherever he's at on the field. Hasn't done his thing. I think Antonio Williams is banged up. I don't know if he's playing here this week or not Antonio Williams. Excuse me. I think it might be Randall actually that's banged up, not Williams, if I'm mistaken. But yeah, Brian Wesco Jr., another guy that, like I said, you have Jeremiah and you have Ryan Williams that are the top freshman wide receivers to talk about. But then you have Wesco and in the Ken Coleman type of lane where he's someone that you need to have on your radars as well. JT, what are your thoughts on this game?
FSU is terrible. They're terrible, dude. They just I told people on my Tuesday night college football betting show, jump on Clemson now because this number is going to keep going up and up and up, and it just keeps going up. It was 13 and a half, 14 and a half. I was like, buy the point, get it to 14. It's already up to 15. It's getting higher. If you look right now, it's getting up to 16 and a half. It's going to just keep getting higher. Right. Clemson finally is looking good on offense. I hate to just rag on DJU because everybody's been doing it, but when he transferred to Florida State, I was like, what are they doing? I'm like, really? They think he's the answer. And I was like, man, he had a solid season at Oregon State, but I was like, that's it. That's the best he's gonna be. I could not believe that they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna go get him. I'm like, oh, this is not gonna be pretty. It hasn't been. And Kate Klubnik, I tell you what, the Devy shares aren't completely dead yet. He's giving us a little shot of life here, man. Little shot of the arm. I've got him on a few teams. I'm like, I was like, he might stick around. So he was looking dead at the end of last season. But he's got a little bit of juice this year. I think they roll in this game. This is my play of the week. I think they absolutely roll Florida State. You typically don't play well there. I think they go in there and they put it to them. I mean, Florida State is not the old Florida State. I mean, they already lost at home to Memphis. Yeah. And I like Memphis. They got awesome beauties, some of the best in the business. But if Memphis is winning by double digits, Clemson's gonna smoke them. I like Kate Klubnik. I'm all over the Kate Klubnik props today. I think you can get them at plus 250 and 2 touchdowns for plus money. So I love it. I'm on him on that. I think Clemson rolls them today. Got some young wide receivers I like. I'd like to see a little more out of some of the wide receiving core of Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Mava's been solid. I'm not sold on him on a Devy asset. I don't think
late day 3 pick, maybe.
Yeah, I really he feels like he's a 6th, 7th rounder or undrafted free agent to me. Yeah. He's gonna need to hit the perfect landing spot in the NFL, I think, to make a difference. He's a nice college player, but I don't see it for him at the next level.
Agreed.
I thought Shipley was way better, and you can see Shipley's just kind of guy right now. Hopefully he gets better, but I mean, obviously playing behind Saquon is always gonna be a problem. I think he's gonna get more time next year when Kenny Gainwell's gone.
Right.
But I think Clemson rolls this one. Florida State, I mean, rest in peace all your Devy assets for Florida State. Hopefully these guys bounce back. Don't get rid of, I mean, hold them if you got them. Hakeem Williams, all those other guys, like they're just,
Right.
man. We've seen it. When your quarterback is bad, everybody looks bad. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just a tough spot. I think Florida State bounces back next year. They'll figure out. I'm pretty sure I saw some stuff that said DJU was not starting today. Like they're over and done with on him. So I think that could be it for him.
Yeah, he's got a hand injury.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk about Klubnik. Every time he has a good game, though, I'm trying to sell him because as much as like he's one of those, you know, that meme where it's like he takes you out and he sucks you back in. That's what's happening with Klubnik right now. It's like, oh yeah, I'm off of him doing this. And then it's like, well, am I? Maybe not. But no, it's like I want to try to sell him where I can. If someone's high on him, go take him. A lot still needs to happen for him to be valuable to me at the next level, because at this point I think he could just be a day 3 pick, you know, former top first round potential, and now, you know, back in, and now he's on the verge of being a day 2 maybe, but I think he's more day 3. I don't know what he's gonna do. It's the wide receivers that's with him that's making him look good, and they're drawing up some good plays for him, don't get me wrong. And so we haven't talked about, you know, Barrett Carter and Sammy Brown, 2 linebackers they have on Clemson's side. Sammy Brown, a freshman linebacker who's looking great, you know, doing phenomenal things in the run game, as well as, you know, getting some sacks there as well. And then you have Barrett Carter, who's arguably one of the top linebackers, if not the top to some people in this draft as well. Just a guy that, you know, was with Trotter last year, did his thing, but now he's going in doing his thing again. So he's rising. He had a couple hard games, but now he's continuing to rise up as well to make sure he's, you know, again, a top linebacker off the board, day 2 pick potentially there. We're going to talk about another, you know, I know you mentioned Travis Hunter, but to be honest, this guy might be the front runner in it, you know, when we're talking about Heisman's. Utah State at Boise State, number 21. Boise State favorite minus 27.5. Ashton Jeanty. A lot of people, not a lot, but some people had him as the RB1 heading into the season. They love what they saw. A lot of people now have him as the RB1 of this class just with his elusiveness. We always say don't scout the helmet, scout the tape. He is someone that I don't know if we see someone break tackles like him, just how efficient he is to see. I like it's at times I feel like he's doing it with his eyes closed. That's how good he is. Like he's just not even paying. He's just naturally runs. Like his body just knows what to do and to go after it. Breaking these tackles, he's quick. He has that speed as well. So there's a lot of good things going on in there. But then on the flip side, you know, Utah State has a nice receiver in Jalen Royals as well. So there's some good things on their side. But I mean, we've seen Ashton Jeanty beat a Boise State offense. He's gonna dominate there. What are your thoughts here, JT?
I love Ashton Jeanty. Probably my favorite bet of the year was I said take him to win the Doak Walker at plus 750 before the season. I'm loving it. Let's keep it rolling. Okay. Ashton Jeanty looks great, won. Dude. He is freaking phenomenal, dude. Sorry about that. Get a little tickle in my throat. If we see a running back go first round, I think it's him. Like, I think if we see a guy go first round this year, it's going to be Jeanty. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to go because it's deep. I think we can see a lot of guys go second, third round. If somebody goes first round, I think it's Jeanty. Dude, the guy is just an absolute beast. I don't know if you saw the over-under for anytime touchdown today. It was like minus 4,000. Like, that's how, like, almost locked in and guaranteed it is. So I took him over rushing yards and 2+ TDs. You can get that at plus money. His over under was going into today. I haven't looked today. Last night it was 188.5. And Utah State has not been good against the run game. I pounded that. I took in that. Plus you can get 2 or plus 3 TDs, which I think is, I mean, not even like,
it's not too aggressive.
Like, it's not like crazy. It's not like, oh, hopefully I get 3. he could get 3 TDs pretty easy. I mean, he's had 6, 3, 0, and 4. And the game he had 0 was Portland State, where he got a couple carries and then they sat him because they were rolling. He is absolutely crushing it this year, man. I love him. God, Devy purposes, if Malachi Nelson was starting and this team was playing this well, you'd be so happy. I've got him in so many spots. I was like, when he transferred that, I was like, why would you transfer? I'm like, man, but if they blow up, they'll be great. And then he doesn't win the starting job. It's killing me right now. But dude, GT, I think you're right, man. I think we've got a different year. I think he definitely has a shot to win the Heisman. Still an outside shot. I like it, especially if Boise State can keep it rolling and get into the playoffs, which I think they can. If they finish 11-1 with their one loss being at Oregon by 3 in a game they were winning, you're in. You're gonna be in, I think, for sure. So I love GT, man. I would love to say go trade for him, but I don't think anybody's giving him up. There's no freaking way right now. You can't get him. Like, you'll have to give up a crap load for him. But I think he's top 5 next year in rookie drafts. Depending where he goes. I think we're looking at we're not at Bijan hype level yet, but he's gonna be up there. You know, especially if none of these QBs go high. I think you're gonna see him like creeping into that 101, 102, 103 talk. If you see him go to like the Cowboys, if the Cowboys took him like first round, he's 101. People are going to be all over him. Like, they're going to be all over him.
For sure. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised the rushing yards were that low.
I couldn't believe it, dude. I thought they were going to be over 200. When I saw 188, I was like, I have to take it. I got it. I mean, the only game he's been under 188 was the Portland State game, where he only played like a quarter and a half. And it's the only game he hasn't had at least 20 touches. And he had 11 for 127 and no touchdowns. I mean, terrible game. But that
is awful.
It's like, okay.
He'd have 1,000 yards if he played that full game. Like,
he'd be 1,004 games in. We're gonna legit later in the year here talk about him. Like, is he gonna break the record? Like, is he gonna run for the most? I mean, he's gonna get in Barry Sanders territory if he keeps doing what he's doing. It's gonna be Barry Sanders, Oklahoma State all over again.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think the craziest thing about Genty that, you haven't seen it this year, but he's a great pass catcher too. I mean, that was all the talk coming into the year, was he's a good runner and a great pass catcher. Well, now he's showing that he's a great runner, and we saw that he was a great pass catcher. I mean, as I said last week, I think the hype is so high you have to sell. But I mean, do you want to? I wouldn't want to sell if I had him either, because you're never going to get him back.
I agree with you, man. It's like you should, because you're like, oh, it's at its peak, but it's like, do you really want to take the chance of giving him up? I'm with you, Spencer, man. So hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that now that there's a serious chance too of him breaking the record, winning the Heisman, I think that Boise's going to let him run. I mean, honestly, Boise. When's the last time that Boise's had a guy with this much hype? Because I can't even. I can't remember or think of a time like that. So I think they're going to let him run. They're going to let him use his legs as much as he can. I could see 306 this game. This is Boise's going to crush. The one name that's really, really under the radar, we're not going to see. Breezy Dubar was back last week. I really like Breezy. He's very fast. He's a good runner. Obviously, he's stuck behind Genty, and they have Sire Gaines and their other freshmen who popped. But he was hurt to start the year, came back. I think he had like -4 yards. It was a rough start. But, I think he's going to get a little run in this game too, and maybe see some of that speed and quickness come into play. But this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, that was and yeah, that's what Sire Gaines. You talk about Malachi Nelson not getting that start there, but I think the team is still set up for success. Next season with Malachi Nelson, and Sire Gaines looks nice. Dubar looks good as well. With on tape, if you watch Dubar's tape, he looks nice. So I think that's something good for them as well, where they can definitely rise. Genty is doing phenomenal things right now. He's my RB2. I still have Quinson as the 1 there. Quinson's, it's because we saw him do it in the SEC. right? So you have to give him that little leg up there, and now he's sharing time with Travion, where Genty has the full backfield to himself. So imagine if Quinshon was at Boise State, what we'd be seeing, right? So that'll just be something different. But no doubt in my mind is Genty a top back, and I think in rookie drafts in this class, I'm not sold on the quarterbacks. Where I think your position players are the guys that you want to take before your quarter. Even in Superflex, these are the guys you want to do it here. So we want to make sure that's happening really big for them as well. JT, I know we have a couple more games here to talk about, but I also know you have some things to go. Any before you head out,
I got
any,
football practice, baby. I got fifth grade flag football practice I got to get to. So
any last minute things you want to say on the just going on with any games or anything specifically?
Man, it's been a fantastic year so far, college football, man. If for people that don't watch college football, I feel bad for them. It's been super fun, exciting. I am stoked about this 12-team playoff. It's about time they've got it. I think it's just made everything so much better that so many teams have a shot. I just popped in my head. This Ashton Genty season's reminding me of a little bit is that last year of LaDainian Tomlinson at TCU, when it was like everybody knew he was getting the ball every play, and it just didn't matter. Like it just didn't matter. He just went off. It's like it just popped in my head. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm hoping. I mean, I know that's like crazy high expectations. I hate to do that to the kid, but I mean that's why you don't want to move him. Like, what if he ends up being that type of guy? You just kill yourself if you get rid of him. My last one I'll talk about is Miami at Cal. Tough game at Cal with the defense, but man, I'm loving Cam Ward. I had him as QB3 coming into the season. He is not dropped at all for me. Another one, if you're a player prop guy, 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns for him has been a banger all year. He's just been crushing that number. So I love it. I appreciate you guys having me on the show. SC missed being on a podcast with you, man. Thanks for having me on. Anytime you guys need me again. Anybody check me out on the X JT Orange at JT Orange. Also Fantasy and Frames. You can find me there doing multiple shows a week. NFL college betting shows. Also doing IDP stuff for, I know SC's an IDP guy as well. We do our IDP show on Wednesday nights. And then for all you hockey fans, Around the Ice on Tuesday nights. Hockey season starts Tuesday. We got 2 games, one yesterday, one today on the Prague games, but official opening night, Tuesday night, we're doing a live broadcast for the opening day game. So check us out there. I appreciate you guys having me on. Sorry, I got to run.
No, all good, bro. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk soon, bro. Have a good practice.
See you guys.
Great meeting talking to you.
All right, Spencer, we're going on to our next one here. I'm going to change this up a little bit. And then, Tennessee, number 4 at Arkansas. Tennessee favorite -14. This is good. This is actually a lot smaller than what I thought with Nico Lyman-Villa, what he can do with this offense. I really think this is one I'm taking all day because I really feel, again, this is a lot less than what I think it should be for them. Tennessee has things rolling. Number 4, I mean, to be honest, you have Bama, you have Texas, you have Ohio State, and then you have Tennessee. Tennessee is definitely an under-the-radar team, a definite team that I can see being the number 1 at the end of the season when it's all said and done, just behind Nicola Imanvia. Their defense, I think, needs to step up a little bit more, just to make sure they're getting some good stops on the play. Arkansas, I know, has some good players on them as well, but I'm taking Tennessee. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely also taking Tennessee. They have Nico is my QB1 in Devy. Dylan Sampson's my RB4 in this upcoming class. He's been balling out. And Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis behind him are being serviceable backups. Dante Thornton, Jr., emerged completely out of. He lived dead in the water last year. A complete resurgence, leading this team. He looks explosive. And Arkansas, again, they look better than I think I thought they were going to look coming into the year. But as we talked about, Talon Green. He's good. He's bad. He's mixed. This is the type of team. Tennessee's defense needs to step up, but they're definitely good enough to give Talon Green some trouble. And I think that they cover the spread just because of that. I don't think Talon Green has quite enough. I have a question for you. If Talon Green came out as a tight end, where would you think of him in terms of Devy? Because I think as a quarterback, he's not really much, but those movement skills.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be very nice for him. To it, I don't think he's gonna do much as a quarterback for him. He's a little bit heavier at 6'6", 230, right? But so that tight end could be it. He does have some good footwork as well. It's got to be in the right package there for him to be able to do it.
Yeah,
I think when it comes to Arkansas, tell the tape is gonna be Jaquindon Jackson and what he can do, right?
yeah,
For him, because I think that opens up when Jaquindon Jackson's running the ball efficiently, it opens up to Taylor Green to actually do some good things with his feet as well. Just opens up play actions, opens up a lot more for the offense for them. So that's a good 1-2 in the backfield for them. Um, as his size, I do like that. I think he again the size for him, and because he is a smooth runner as well, that tight end position could do well. And I think sometimes for the quarterbacks, you have to realize that that's where you need to be, right? That's how you can, especially at the combine time, if you can go in there and do things like that, that would be big for him. I mean, Taylor Green also, I love Texas, so shout out my Texas athletes. But yeah, I would like that. I think he could definitely find more opportunity there because right now, even if he goes pro, he's a backup. I don't see him as a pure
yeah,
starter or anything like that. So some things happening differently there. But yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee covers this. Nico Lavavia is great. This defense, Dylan Sampson, RB4. I love that man. That's great there for him. This should be a blowout victory in my opinion. Even at Arkansas, I think they're gonna come here and stomp them. Sorry, Razorbacks, but I just think that's where we go there
yeah,
for them.
yeah.
Next one. Oh, sorry. You have last thoughts on
No,
it?
I was just saying,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just, yeah. Sorry, Arkansas.
Yeah, I just don't. Upsets happen right in SEC, but I just don't see it. Nico's
Yeah,
balling it, and like you mentioned, even with Thornton, right? He's bringing a new style to this offense. So we're seeing a lot more different things with this offense. So that's what's big for him there. This next one here, Michigan number 10 at Washington. This is huge because Michigan has, gone blown out at home, going to Washington. This is the rematch, right, of the championship. Washington favorite -1.5. This is pretty interesting right now. Michigan has a lot of eyes on them right now, coming from national glory to what are they doing here? Khalil Mullins looks great. Definitely blowing Donovan Edwards out the water just with his efficiency when it comes to the running game as well. On the Washington side, they're not the same team. We knew that going in. Will Rogers hasn't looked horrible. He hasn't looked as great as we wanted, but no interceptions right now through his games, right? So he's doing something right. Their running game, it's here and there. Jonah Coleman looking all right as well. And then you have Denzel Boston and Giles Jackson as the wide receivers. It's just not as flashy as it was last year for either team. And I think that's why this game isn't as exciting, right? But I do think there are some Devy assets here. Like I mentioned, Mullins, you have Mason Graham on the defensive front for Michigan. So this is a game where it's gonna. I think Michigan could cover this. I think they actually win. What are your thoughts here?
yeah. I mean, I think that this is. I think there might be an upset here. I'm pretty sure that Will Johnson is still hurt. But I don't know. Let me double check that. Should have been looking up that while you were talking. But I mean, if he's still, I mean, at the very least, if he's playing, um, he's going to be, like a little banged up, a little slow. And that
Talking
would
about Rogers,
impact
right?
things. Um, no, Will Johnson, Michigan's corner there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know that he was hurt. Let's see. He left. He's questionable. They were optimistic, so it sounds like he might play today.
Mhm.
But he was. If he's not 100%, it's going to be hard to shut down Denzel Boston, I think.
Mhm.
I know your boy. I think Tom Harvey Sports has him at his like top 10 wide receiver in this class. I'm not quite that high on him. I went out and checked out a little bit of tape last week to kind of get in, but he can ball for sure. As you said, Will Rogers has balled out sort of out of nowhere. Washington, the defense is kind of like a wet napkin,
Mhm.
but Michigan's offense is kind of like a brick wall. It doesn't move. Um, it's it's going
Yeah.
to be all Khalil Mullings. Can he carry this offense on his own?
Yep.
Loveland is the only air weapon they have,
Right.
but Orgy hasn't shown he can move it through the air.
Right.
So I think there's an upset here. I really do.
Possible.
Michigan just falling off.
I mean, Washington's at home, so why not? Right, you're in your home crowd. This
Yeah,
could be huge for them. And if Michigan goes, 2 losses, I think they're just they're out of playoff contention at this point. I just don't see it happening for him. But Colston Loveland still, Devy asset to watch. He's Harold Fanning and Havey are really the two tight ends where I'm keeping on Devy boards. C2C, you have tight ends, right? But Devy boards, those are two right now that I can see on Devy boards for him. If you have other tight ends, go drop him for someone else. Get another guy. Get a Micah Hudson if someone dropped him because he hasn't been playing. Get a James People Jr. if he hasn't. Or Quentin Martin. Go get them tight ends. You don't necessarily hold them in Devy unless they're ballers, and Colson Loveland is one of them as well as fan in there as well. So. Big things to come from them, but this offense does run through Loveland and Mullings there for Michigan. But Washington, they have looked nice. It's not unfamiliar territory for them playing Michigan, so we'll see here. Next one here though, USC number 11 at Minnesota. USC favorite -7.5. This one's interesting because Minnesota has a nice running back, right? They have Darius Taylor there. They have a nice running game in general. USC, Miller Moss is nice, but like he hasn't. The game against LSU was phenomenal, and since then, to me, it's kind of just been mid for him. It hasn't been anything crazy good. Woody Marks and Quinton Joyner are kind of both, there. I know Woody Marks is taking it over, so that's good. The wide receivers there are looking great. They're making Miller Moss look better than what he is. I feel like you have Jacoby Lane, you have Branch, you have Kyron Hudson. They're making him look better than what he is there. On the flip side, for Minnesota, different guys there. Max Brosmer. Struggling, so this could be a game where USC takes advantage of it. Darius Taylor, as I mentioned, there's a solid weapon for them as well. So USC should cover this, but I think the X factor here is Miller Moss. I think Miller Moss can easily lose this game for them. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I agree. Miller Moss has been disappointing after that electric game against LSU. I think after that game, people have him as high as QB3 in this class. Yeah, he's fallen down. I mean, I'm not sure what QB3 is worth in this class, to be honest. But Quentin Joyner and Woody Marks both look really good. Quentin Joyner, I want to see him get more work because he's been absolutely explosive. He's got really great feet. He's quick and shifty, but no power to his game. That's not really how he wins. But just a little bit more. But the weapons are really good. I think Miller Moss might be actually bringing this team down and looks good because of how talented they are.
100%.
As Darius Taylor, he's played well. Not great enough as a rusher, but as a receiver, he's been legit great, which is always good to see. You want a very dynamic running back like that. But I could see Minnesota covering the spread. I could see an upset too, but I think USC probably comes out on top. It wins by maybe like 10-14. So, I think they cover the spread here just barely.
I always love watching Minnesota running backs. I think they produce some solid running backs for future assets, at the next level as well. Taylor is one of them. I mean, but you're mentioning the receiving game, 21 receptions, 150 yards. So definitely making a name for him in the receiving game, showing his dual threat capabilities there as well. It'll be a very interesting game. USC, I know, is 11. I still don't know if they're a playoff team. I think they're going to be outside of it. They're going to hit someone down the road where it's just not going to happen there for them. But then you have Baylor at Iowa State. Our next one, Iowa State 16. They're favored -11. This one's interesting as well because Iowa State, man, coming in, I've talked about it. Abu Sama was a heavy guy on my radars, and he hasn't done what I wanted him to do. He just hasn't looked as efficient, hasn't looked as great. Iowa State is 4-0, so that's something good for them as well. Baylor, though, you have some okay weapons. They have some good running backs. Josh Cameron, at the receiving end. -11 is a pretty close one, so at 4-0, I think they have a really good defense as well, Iowa State, so they have some good defensive backs, some good linebackers that get after it as well. This one should be good, and not to mention their wide receiver in Jalen Noel. I think that's their playmaker there. 19 receptions, 350 yards there. Definitely a Devy asset you should be looking at because I think he could make something at the next level there for him. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, as you said, Abu Sama hasn't looked great, but he looked pretty good last week. He popped back out, and I kind of want to see a resurgence for him. That game in the snow last year, he looked like RB1. So
For sure.
hoping that he can just show enough to kind of work his way into high day 3.
For sure.
Baylor needs a coaching change bad. I don't know if it's recruiting. I don't know if it's scheme, not using weapons properly. I mean, Monterey Baldwin has to be one of the most athletic wide receivers in college football. Very undersized, 5'9", 180, but he's going to run a 4.2 at the combine, and they haven't gotten the ball in his hands. And that to me is, especially with the way the offense has looked, is just mismanagement. So I think a coaching change is coming to Baylor, but on that Iowa State side, Jalen Noel, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
I'm in love with this kid. He's a real baller, very underrated still, I think. If he's out there in Devy, I would add him to your roster if you got the space, unless you got a real loaded Devy roster. But I mean, at this point, we've had people stumble. He's playing into day 2. He's probably still early day 3, round 4, round 5 guy, but I could see, top 100 for him, kind of in the way that like Luke McCaffrey just randomly worked his way into the top 100 last year.
Yeah.
Because he has all those raw tools. He knows how to run a route. He's got good hands. Jalen Noel's the same exact way. Little undersized, but he's going to ball.
Yeah, I agree. He's very efficient, very fluid in his movement as well when it comes to it. And I think he really is that offense for him. So he's definitely someone, especially if they go in and maybe lose 1 or 2 matches, or if they go undefeated. I mean, he's someone that's going to rise the radars for real. At 16, they could definitely make a run for it to be a top 10 overall team, or top 12 overall team to make you in the playoffs. In the Big 12, they can easily win that division, that conference out as well, to just represent the Big 12 for them too. So that'll be interesting. Now I know we talked about Heisman candidates. Miami number 8 at Cal. This is where game day's at. Miami's -10. To me, Cam, I know a lot of people are like on Shador Sanders. I think Cam Ward is a better quarterback. I love his work ethic. Things I just hear and read about his work ethic is he wants to go in there and he wants to give it 110% at practice. Like, he's going out there and putting in the work to make sure he's better. I know he has his flaws. Sometimes he gets, a little too risk taking and makes a bad throw, right? But he's someone that is continuing to get better week over week. I just feel he's understanding the game. He's knowing to slow it down as well. So I think he's someone that you can definitely watch out for, because he's someone that is going to be great. Right now as QB4 in the draft, and I think he's going to continue to elevate. I think this is a game where they win. I know it's at Cal, so this is going to be exciting. Cal has Jaden Knott, who looks great. Don't get me wrong, he's something nice, but Cam Ward, I think, is going to be someone that he's going to continue to rise, man. And right now, we talk about quarterbacks this game, the Heisman run. I feel like he could be the one right now, just in the way he's balling. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,700 yards, leading the team to undefeated season right now. Has solid running backs in Lyle, Martinez, and Fletcher. Xavier Restrepo's balling. I have Xavier Restrepo as my overall 24 in this class as well. Isaiah Horton, talk about tight end, Elijah Arario. Their defense is hitting, different strides as well. So that's looking really good. Cal, they are nice. Don't get me wrong, 3-1 right now, right? So they have some things that can do well as well. As I mentioned, Jaden Knott's there for them. They have some good wide receivers, right? But I think this is a game where Miami just goes on the road and they just dominate for them. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, we got some guys over at the League Winners where I put a lot of my stuff covering this game, and they've said the energy there is excellent. A lot of videos they have up Tommy Jets, Brandon Pockrass, and Cody. I think he's Stoneman on X, but a lot of energy coming in. But Miami is going to shut it down.
Yeah, for sure.
Cam Ward he's my QB2 of the class right now, behind Milrow. Restrepo, as you said, real nice day 2 guy. Isaiah Horton was the focal point last week to try to shut it down. Horton is a really fast riser for me. I kind of bought into the preseason hype. I think he had a bit of preseason MVP written all over him, and he's lived up to it. I think he might be actually the most raw talented wide receiver in that room. I am selling all of the running backs right now. Damon Martinez, I just don't think is actually that good. Mark Fletcher, I do
Agree.
think is good, but I think he's going to be a little limited in the NFL. I think he's going to be stuck in a kind of a short area goal line work,
Yeah,
almost
for
like a
sure.
Zach Moss is who he reminds me of.
For sure.
But if somebody's out on him, you could also buy that, like kind of
Yeah.
a day three, maybe day two back end when he declares. He's still got another year, I think, at least.
For sure.
And
He gets banged up.
Yeah, he gets hurt a little. It's tough. It is tough, but Cam Ward just rises above all of that, and
Right.
he's definitely a Heisman contender. I think it's between him and Genty, Milrow, and
Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter for sure. Can't discount the two-way there.
Yeah.
But I think that's your four. I don't see anyone breaking into that. So maybe Jackson Dart could, but Jaden he's 2 weeks off of his injury. He should come out and ball, but Miami's got a tough defense. It's going to be hard to run against them, I think, because everybody knows that he's going to be the guy they're trying to work through. So he's fallen down a little bit for me. I had him as a fringe day 2 guy coming in. He's day 3 for me now with the injuries and performance, but he's a really well-rounded player. Another guy who, like Darius Taylor we talked about earlier, like he really excels in the receiving game. He can break off a huge run. He's just a little undersized, doesn't fight through contact enough, but he's got to get his stock back up. So I expect him to get fed the rock today and ball out as best he can in the spotlight.
Right. I think if he gets the rock, he could definitely carry, the workload there for them. You talked about, Mark Fletcher, one of my favorite guys in the class. I just love the way he runs. But then Jordan Lyles, a freshman at Miami as well, that looks really nice too. So that's someone else that's going to eat into him. A little smaller back than what Fletcher is, more elusive, more agile with his movement. So that's going to be something different. Whereas you mentioned, Mark Fletcher's more of a bully back. He can run through you. He has the speed, but you're not necessarily gonna, move him around or try different play or different schemes to get him the ball where you would with Lyle there as well. So Miami just, they built it out. We talk about the freshman class receiver. We haven't talked about is Josiah Trader, who a lot of people had him as a solid wide receiver. He's just been buried, but I mean that's someone to look out for as well in years to come for Miami there too. When Cam Ward's gone, will they still be the same? We'll see. But right now, it's exciting to see Cam Ward ball out here after transferring from Washington State to go here and, do great things at Miami. And I really think they can continue on this undefeated streak. And even at Cal, I think they're going to go in there and do it. I think the offense is just too heavy powered. Cal has some defenders, sure, but the offense is too much heavy powered. Cam Ward slings it. And lately, he's been slinging it accurately, right? He hasn't been 70% completion. He hasn't been doing it as we've seen in the past, where it's like he kind of slides down. He's continuing to grow, continuing again to slow down the game. I think he got a little too happy when it came to throwing, deep balls and things like that, where it cost interceptions, trying to force tight squeezes into the holes and things like that for him. But now he's understanding, okay, this is where I'm at. This is how I got to throw it. So it's exciting to see that for him there. But I think he's definitely going to ball out moving forward. And I like him as a Heisman candidate for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a little. I want to see a consistent full game for him. You know what I mean? Like no interceptions, no big mistakes, because he always seems to have one or two plays where you're like, whoa,
right?
Were you seeing the same field that I'm looking at here?
Right.
he rolls out and he just flings it to a guy who's triple covered.
Right.
It's always a great throw, but it's always to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Just a little more consistency. I think he could really solidify a top 5 pick for him at quarterback, but he's played into first round. He's going to be a first round pick.
I agree. Some people have him as top 3 quarterbacks off the board, so I agree with that. With it as well, that he definitely can be a first round, and who knows, maybe we'll see 5 quarterbacks in this draft again in the first round. We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see. Definitely within the first 2 days, I think. That's it though, man. I mean, some games have started here. I know it's a noon Eastern, so we have some games ready kicking off. Is there any games specifically before I let you go that you're interested in watching?
Well, I always going to watch my my BC guys go out and ball, but I am really interested in this Miami Cal game. I really want to see kind of what Cam Ward brings, and I'm hoping Isaiah Horton has a bigger game because I put a lot of stock in him. But what about you? What are you watching today?
That's just the biggest one, man. My Ducks came out here and he balled, so I'm happy with that and what the outcome was for them to do it. There's tons of games going on. Just looking through the slate here for it. I mean, we talked about the Purdue, Wisconsin's going on now. Pittsburgh, North Carolina. I love Eli Holston there. I think he's doing great things and he's someone the Devy that you need to watch too. Transfer from Alabama, went there, now leading Pittsburgh to an undefeated start so far. Wake Forest, NC State, Kevin Concepcion, what's going on with them as well is big, and I think there's big ones to happen. The biggest one is probably Pittsburgh. I would love what I'm seeing with Eli Holston, one of my risers in Devy realm, just because I was high on him when he went to Alabama. Now he's transferring. He's showing he has a skill level to be a legit contender. Again, leading the team to undefeated season right now. So he's definitely a quarterback you want to keep on your radars. I mean, Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick, right? Eli Holston's a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. So he's played at Pittsburgh. He has Gavin Bartholomew with him as a tight end, who's a nice asset there. They have Desmond Reed as well. So these are some guys that you can watch out for. But I think that's when you're looking at quarterbacks. I know people love like your Malachi Nelsons. I know people love like your Dante Moores. Quarterbacks that are benched right now. Eli Holston needs to be picked up on some leagues. Actually, I need to make sure I have him in all my Devy leagues because he's just a talented quarterback, and I think he's going to continue to elevate and lead his team to success in the years to come. We're going to talk about him as a potential first-round pick as well.
Yeah, no, he looks real good. And he's kind of come out of nowhere. I think a little bit under. I think he was a 4-star at Alabama last year, and transferred out. Kind of lost. Nobody was really talking about him, and he's absolutely exploded. On the other side, Omarion Hampton.
Baller.
Because he's not ranked, we almost never talk about him on here, but because UNC is never going to rise up. But he's up there. He's my RB5 behind Sampson right now. But he's a bowling ball. Defenders are like pins. He's just knocking them down. So it'll be interesting to see.
I had him as RB6, but I think I'm gonna move him up to 5. Gordon's slipping. Gordon's falling down. I had Gordon at 5 and him at 6, so I think I'm gonna move him up above Gordon. It's just not looking good for him. It's not the same Gordon we're seeing, and Hampton just showing he could take the workload, so I love him there. Check out my Devy Diamonds on Hampton. I did drop that on the fantasyfootballuniverse.com. But Spencer, again, I know games are started. Hey, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on X, Buck Wild Sports. I'm going to tweet about almost everything that I can, especially now that all my festivities are done. It's going to be more content coming out. You can find most of my work. I write about BC, do game previews every week for Boston College on the league winners, and throw in some Devy and some NFL stuff on there as well. Again, looking to broaden horizons. There's big stuff coming soon. Just gotta keep working on it. So you can find me there, and I'm trying to come on here every week I can because Fantasy Football Universe is putting out great stuff. So. Shout out them. I know SC is going to shout them out, but I just want to back it up as somebody not involved in the company. They really are doing great stuff. Always putting out content. I tune in whenever I can. So follow them here.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, as he mentioned, follow him. Spencer's a great guy, knows his Devy stuff. Someone that really, when it comes to the CTC realm, one of the first guys that I jumped into it with. So I appreciate all your insight. Always welcome on the show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on these shows every week. Saturday mornings dropping this Devy Game Day preview. We have content. I actually got to hop into the roundtable, which we're doing every Saturday now as well. But yeah, daily Fantasy Football Universe, we're dropping daily content to help you succeed. So don't forget to subscribe so you know when we're live. Follow me on X at the PPR Show. Look out for my college football threads on players that impress me week to week. I talked about Gentry. I talked about different guys, IDP, you name it, I'm talking about it. Also wrestling. We got some wrestling things going on there as well if you like that kind of stuff at the PPR Show. But the Fantasy Football Universe, like, comment, subscribe. Also follow us on X at the FF Universe. Really anywhere, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, even at the FF Universe. We're on there. So don't forget to do that. But until next time, for me, Spencer, and the guys at FFU, I'm SC Romero. This was the Devy Game Day Preview. Peace.